Hello everyone and welcome to another technical analysis video on Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana. We have seen a move below $100,000 on BTC and we are up against one of the most resistances in my opinion for the next couple of days. On Ethereum we've also seen a major liquidity grab ending in a failed auction. And we also have a nice liquidity grab on Solana. I want to give you my perspective on the charts to see what I am looking at next, to look at my areas of interest for short trades and potentially even look for areas of interest to compound existing long trades. But I'm also going to cover one low time frame resistance that could change the context on BTC. So let's jump into this right here. On my last videos, I was speaking about a short trade I had on BTC after taking out $116,000. This short trade had a target of $102,000 on Bitcoin. Many people got super bullish in this consolidation range down here and said the low is in, we're seeing a new all-time high next. For me, it wasn't that simple. I was waiting for my target to be hit, and that was based off one very simple thing here. And that is, if we look at the high on BTC, we can see we had these unfinished highs. So unfinished highs are always classed as highs where we have a high and then a lower high. That means there is to be expected at least that there is some nice liquidity above these highs. We have then seen the nice liquidity grab, and my target was very simple. It was the opposite side of that range where we have the same phenomenon just on the higher or medium time frame. We had this low, we had a higher low which was rather close to these lows, and I already thought that doesn't look great. BTC likes to take the liquidity. I think it's unlikely these lows will be kept intact. So we have then seen another higher low, making many people bullish, and that liquidity was just eaten up to fill bigger short orders and ultimately hit this low or take out this low. For me, that was a target for this short trade. However, I keep the short trade open as I have entered a long trade off of the failed auction of $100,000 on BTC. So if I draw a line right here, let's see, $100,000, it's not going to be the exact level, but more or less, we can see there was no single 4-hour close within or below $100,000. And then for me, a reclaim of the previous low, we can even call this the range low, was a long trade target for me. Okay, so this was a long trade I was interested in. I've taken the long trade after seeing acceptance above. So I'm still in this long trade, okay? In my last public live trading stream on YouTube, I gave this target or this short trade right here, okay? That was the day where I was doing live trading over on YouTube. Then I headed to the website to continue live trading, confirm this entry. That was the target, perfect trade, okay? So now enough of these old trades. I want to have a look at what I am looking at next, or the positions I'm in is still this short trade. But as I mentioned, I also took this long trade right here. And something that's interesting here is that for the first time I used this Bybit EU account, which was pretty flawless in my opinion. That was very nice, so I'm happy with that. But there's one thing we have to be aware of, okay? It's always the most advanced position to be in as a trader is to be in a short trade from the highs and a long trade from the lows. That is perfect. But still, I want to find the next most important areas for people who are even in no trades at the moment. Okay, and something that is very, very important here is that if we zoom out and include a lot of volume, I want to look at the daily time frame, and you can see this fixed range right here. I can hide this one as that is one I'm looking at if we see another rotation to the downside. But first we have to look at this, because we can also class this big zone here as a massive range. So if we look at the volume profile, we can see we are currently exactly at this range value area low. So in terms of volume theory, it is extremely important to now keep an eye on what's happening at this zone. Because if we get a reclaim of this, I would expect another push to the upside to actually at least $111,000 into $112,000 on Bitcoin, where my next key resistance is sitting at. But that is now going to be super important to see what's happening here. Okay, we now go back to the lower time frames. I want to stick with the 4-hour time frame and see what's happening at this key level. We can see we already tested this zone by seeing the first 4-hour close inside. Then we had a bit of a rejection, still closing right at this level. So I would class this as an attempt to reclaim this range value area low. However, what I would need to see as confirmation is a 4-hour close above $106,630. Okay, so if we see another 4-hour close up here, I would say it looks very probable that we have seen a reclaim of the range value area low, and I would look for a move into $112,000 next, or minimum would be the range point of control, which is lining up with this anchored VWAP and this big point of control. It's also the bigger range point of control, not only the medium or smaller time frame range point of control. Okay, so the most important thing here is a 4-hour close, and that is still going to take some time. The next 4-hour candle is going to be in 3 hours, so I'm going to make sure the video is uploaded in time. Okay, so that is what I'm looking at next. All right, so I'm going to hide these things right here and look at a level that is going to be interesting to look at in case we see a bit of a drop to the downside first. And that is the retest of this range low. Okay, I'm going to hide this so you know I'm in this long trade. But anyways, if we look at this on the 4-hour time frame, we've seen this again, not the best lows. This is something to keep in mind. Okay, but for now, BTC kept these lows. That is fine. We have seen a clean break of these 4-hour highs. So that means we have the low, high, higher low, and price made a higher high. Okay, so there is a confirmed market structure change on the 4-hour time frames. And what I can see here is that if we get a pullback into 102,250, that is going to be an interesting place to at least look at for a somewhat of a day trade, as we do have very clean support down here being the CC, a daily level. It is the previous range low, but also a weekly NPOC. So that 100% is a level of interest for me. If we reach this level, I could foresee something along the lines of hitting that level, maybe even taking out the liquidity and then seeing another attempt at this key level right here. Okay, so in terms of the long trade, my next area of interest is going to be a retest of 102,250. I'm not longing up here. The good long trade was down there. Even if we see the claim, I'm just using that to trail my stop loss, or just to know how to analyze the context on BTC. Okay, so let's also have a look at the next big resistances, and that is going to be a somewhat bigger zone here on BTC, which is going to be between this right here. I wouldn't think the CC is going to hold. I would be more interested in the 0.75. Okay, so the resistance really starts with this range point of control and is all the way into these monthly MPOC and daily MPOC zone right here. Okay, so that is going to be my big zone of interest for a short trade. I can clean up my chart again. And yeah, I am definitely interested in hedging my long trade, which I've taken down here in this region again. I'm going to place my alert here, and that would look something along the lines of a entry at around this level and then targeting below $100,000 next. If that level holds, perfectly fine. My target here, or my idea, is to stay in this long trade from the lows, but try to find the next best short trade to hedge this long trade in case BTC is indeed rolling over here and we have just seen a high, low, lower high, lower low, and this could still end up being the lower high formation. So I'm taking it level to level on BTC in this long trade, and this is my area of interest to hedge that long trade. So Let's also have a look at the Discord. I wanted to point this out because on that one day where we had the live trading stream, I have then continued this live trading stream on the website, and I also gave my entry here on BTC. So I said I have entered this long on BTC. For the first time, I used the Bybit EU account and plan to ladder a bigger order. So this is exactly what I've done here. Entry was confirmed, and same for Ethereum. And I now want to have a look at this Ethereum trade, which was down here at the time. I said not in on Ethereum yet, as we just haven't seen the 4-hour close above. I am more of a conservative trader, so I always wait for my confluences to hit. That's one thing, but then also to see the confirmation that I need to see. And then at some point I said, okay, entry confirmed on my end, and I am taking the long on Ethereum. Okay, made it very clear what I'm doing on Ethereum, and then we have seen a very nice move to the upside on Ethereum. Very similar to BTC. Again, basing it off of a unfinished low theory again. I was thinking the lows on Ethereum just weren't great. Okay, we had a low at 3,347. It did look super unfinished in my opinion, and then I wanted to target this short trade. And by the way, that short trade had a probability to play out of 84%. I explained this in my altcoin stream, how I came up with this statistic and this playbook trade that has an 84% probability to play out. So if you're interested in that, it's you can rewatch this video on the website at chartchampions.com. But yeah, that short trade hit the target. However, I did not close this trade because for me, I made it very, very clear and obvious that I'm looking at this as support on Ethereum. But if it breaks, I wouldn't be surprised to see $2,600 next on Ethereum. So this was a major key level down here. But at the end of the day, we are traders. If I see confirmation, I'm taking the trade, even if I would prefer lower, because I would prefer 2,500. That simply means I can buy Ethereum lower, so that would be perfect. But in the end, we saw a nice bounce here, so I had to take the long trade, unfortunately. I mean, good that I'm in profits, but I would like to see 2,500, let's just say that. But let's have a look at this entry right here. It was after the 4-hour close inside on Ethereum. We have seen an increase of 8%. And now we have hit the downtrend anchored VWAP, which is always a take profit one for me. Now I want to have a look at Ethereum from a point of view where I'm not in a trade and looking at the next big areas on Ethereum. For that, I can hide my entries right here. I always need to see the volume, so let's check this real quick, and perfect, that's all we need, very easy. So Ethereum is also coming into one very key level, and that is going to be the previous demand zone around $3,700. While BTC is hitting the key level, the big range value area low, Ethereum is also hitting a major level of resistance, being demand once, twice, 3, 4, downtrend anchored VWAP, and a daily NPOC. However, for me, this is only a level of interest for maybe a day trade. I don't really want to hedge myself here because I am already in the short trade from the highs, and I kind of don't want to compound this down here. Okay, so that would be a separate trade. If I see a decent reaction here, that for me is always candle closes, I'm taking a trade. Very easy. It's going to be a separate trade from this one, as I don't like to compound this perfect short trade all the way down here. Okay, so that's that. That's going to be a separate trade. Where I would look at a compound for this short trade is a little bit higher, and that is going to be around this monthly MPOC and the $4,000 retest on Ethereum. So that's going to be one area where I would look at a nice short trade if I see a decent reaction again. Okay, my alert is already placed. That is the next biggest resistance in my opinion. We would be taking a bit of liquidity, probably many people getting bullish on Ethereum again, so I could see the retest of 4,000 being a major level on Ethereum. So that's going to be the much bigger level. However, that would already be a level of interest for a day trade. Anyway, now let's have a look at this level to the downside, very similar to the support on BTC. If we see a retest down here, I would see potential for at least a day trade. on Ethereum, and that's going to be around 3,400 into 3,300. Okay, so this is also the previous range low on Ethereum. This would be the invalidation for this trade, and it would have a target of about $4,000 on Ethereum. As always, I wouldn't just limit this level. I would wait for a nice candle formation. I would wait for my 3-candle entry strategy, which I shared on the website, and I would use the 4-hour time frame for this. So yeah, I'm going to place my alert. Doesn't mean I will take this entry, but this is my next area of interest. I would like to see the rejection here and then maybe into this level, but we will see. I'm not too fixated on these drawings that they have to play out. I know my next levels of interest for long trades, for short trades. If I see a good confirmation, I'm taking these trades and nothing else. So, as promised, there was one more thing I wanted to look at, and that is Solana. So, Solana has been a very, very interesting one. So, we had this major drop on the 10th of October. It was into $150 on Solana. For me, that was a long trade. I saw this on my phone and I was like, I have to take this trade. Solana 150, I know, major important level. Okay. My next level of interest on Solana, which I also gave in one of my stock market updates, not stock market, sorry, altcoin streams, getting confused here, was the SFP of that low. And it is very nice to see that BTC has taken out the lows from this 10th of October. Ethereum has taken out the lows. Solana has also taken out the lows. And that, in my opinion, was just a very, very easy long trade. Okay. And that was a simple 4-hour close above. We've seen the level hit, close above, and then another 10% increase to the upside. We have to keep in mind that Solana, and this is something we see more often on Solana, has front-run a couple of support levels, which are a big range point of control and a weekly MPOC. That for me simply means that if we take out the lows once more, 145 remains to be a very interesting and key level for me on Solana. Okay, I'm gonna hide this and now look at my next big resistance on Solana, and that is going to be this monthly MPOC at $194. Okay, what we can see here, always a major important level. From this high that we put in at around $250, where we've taken a legendary short trade, we've seen a nice pullback. Price made a low, lower high, another lower low. So we could view this as a nice bearish downtrend. So we can look at resistances to the upside and could still expect a new low to be made. I'm not too fixated on that, but at least it's a nice area for a short trade. And then we see the downtrend anchored view up is lining up perfectly with this MPOC and the weekly level. So for me, that is going to be the next massive key resistance on Solana. Let's see if that's even lining up with local volume. It's the previous range value area high. That's perfect. So this zone right here on Solana is going to be my next major big level of interest for a short trade where I would like to hedge my long trade from the lows. Okay, so that now covered BTC, my level of interest to the downside, the next sign of strength, key level of resistance to the upside, Ethereum, local positioning, day trade compound for the short trade, and this is Solana. So this is my plan on crypto for the next couple of days. I'm going to do another in-depth altcoin stream this week. Also, if something changes significantly, maybe we see a major drop in the stock market, maybe we see another black swan event in the crypto space, whatever, we don't know. I'm not going to blindly long or short my levels. I'm waiting for confirmation. If there's a good confirmation, a good entry trigger given, I'm taking these trades. But I'm not a fan of being too biased of these levels in case there's no reaction, as we have seen on this 10th of October. So that's my plan, BTC, Ethereum, Solana. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if there's another altcoin you want me to cover. If you don't know about the exact strategies I'm sometimes referring to, you know exactly where to find it. That's chartchampions.com. You can rewatch all the lessons that we have and get the exact same understanding of the markets as we do. So I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video, and bye-bye.